back to the Definitely Cricket podcast powered by Next 11 Cricket with a day one recap of the Australia versus Bangladesh first test from Marara. And there's been some amazing performances from this Australian team in the last decade and some memorable moments and days that today's definitely not one of those. Absolutely outplayed all day by Bangladesh, and Australia currently lead by 102 runs with 9 wickets in hand for Bangladesh in their first innings. The real story of the day was Mohammad Hassan, 6 for 55. His third 5-wicket haul in international cricket was just too good for the Australian batters, consistently finding good lengths and finished with that 6 for 55 off 24 overs. The story of the day's play was Australia won the toss and decided to have a bat first. The wicket did look quite green and did look that it was going to move around just a little bit early on, but Pat Cummins would have expected his troops to be able to fight through that. It was a 45-run opening stand between Jake Weatherald and Travis Head before Jake Weatherald was out caught behind for 23. 45-run opening partnership with Head and Weatherald falling quickly, with Head falling shortly after at 2 for 52. Head and Weatherald were the only two batters outside of Steve Smith, who we'll touch on later, who made it past 20. So all in all, not a terrible start from the Australians. 45 in an opening stand, you take that the first half an hour of a test match, and then the floodgates open for the Bangladeshis with some fantastic bowling, just really good test match lengths. Marnus Labuschagne, unfortunately, that trend continues of him getting squared up. He nicked off the second slip, getting squared up. He ended up just scoring the 1 run off 20 deliveries. Looked quite nervous and proddy, and unfortunately it looks like much the same that we've seen from the Queenslander over the last 2 to 3 seasons. Cam Green coming out and looked really good, was able to hit 2 or 3 boundaries down the ground. His feet were looking really good and he looked really aggressive and assertive, and unfortunately that trend in the last 24 months of him falling across to the offside and clipping in the air through mid-wicket. Obviously Bangladesh did their homework and he was also out, with Bangladesh taking 4 Australian wickets with them to the lunchtime break, with Australia 4 for 74. Mahmood took 2 with Taskin and Abadot going 1 apiece, with 4 for 74 at lunch. In the second session, it was Steve Smith and Alex Carey coming out with some really good compact batting, putting the bad balls away. They had a 55-run partnership between Smith and Carey before Carey, again, unfortunately, seems to be a trend today with some familiar dismissals for the Australian top order. Carey just falling across a little bit and exposing that gap between bat and pad with that ball coming back in from the right arm quicks. He was out for 19, with Smith continuing on with the lower order. Smith brought up his 50. He's just looked in sublime form, just left the ball really well, played really late. He was joined by Bo Webster, who unfortunately also got squared up, and again, familiar dismissal for Webster with that front foot planting and playing across the line. He lost his off peg. In Australia, we're in a lot of trouble there. Cummins, Stark didn't offer much resistance, with Cummins out caught behind with off Mahmood for 9, and then Stark probably summed up all the Australian batters. That dismissal, a batter that is more than capable in Test cricket, and just planted his foot on leg stump and just waved his hands across the line and tickled it through to Liton Das. Australia had a slightly better middle session, going into tea, losing 4 for 109 in that second session, but it was all Bangladesh after that as well. Australia 8 for 183 at tea, coming out after the break, losing those 2 wickets very quickly, with Steve Smith potentially just looking to get a bit of a move on and taking the game on. He ran down the wicket and just put one straight up the chute off Mahmood to give him his 5th. It was quite an interesting shot from Smith, but I think it was more of a not having that much trust in line, and Gaz proved him right there, pulling one straight to square leg not too long after that. So Australia were all out for 198 in the 53rd over that was the lowest total Australia has made against Bangladesh in Test cricket. It was Hassan, as we touched on, with 6 for, and Taskin and Abadot also grabbed a couple. So all 10 wickets fall into place for the Australians. It was quite a fantastic performance from the Bangladeshis. Just their patience and their ability to just consistently hit line and length and not chase wickets on a surface that was doing a little bit early on day one, and were just able to hang in there. And it did look quite like Australia could come out and get some inroads early. There was lots of plays and misses early on, but unfortunately, again, Bangladesh were just the better of the two teams there. They were able to just play in their box, not chase the balls wide, which a lot of those Australian dismissals you look through are Weatherald, and then potentially Green, and then also Cummins as well, and Stark, just playing away from their body. And the Bangladeshis just showed an absolute masterclass on how to play the moving ball. Australia probably a little bit too much, two lengths. Probably got a little bit too excited by the sideways movement and the ball carrying through nicely to Alex Carey, and wasn't really nickable in that first probably hour there of the second session. And yeah, as I said, Bangladesh 1 for 96 at stumps, looking a really strong position. And the one kind of nice little thing for Australia in that last session was that Mitch Stark went past the great Wasim Akram for the most test wickets taken by a left armour. So congrats to Starkey on that. But yeah, and Australia have got their work cut out from tomorrow. Looks like the wicket was getting a little bit better to bat on as the afternoon progressed. That tennis ball bounce slightly start to come through a little bit more true. So yeah, it's going to be a big day tomorrow for the Australians. It was one of those days of Test cricket where they just didn't look like they got out of second gear, and potentially overlooked the challenge that Bangladesh would give them. And fair play to Bangladesh. They've come over here to Australia ready, and as a lot of people have cricket people in the industry have alluded to, that CA11 game is not anything to really read off. And Najmal Hossain Shanto and his team would be super, super proud tonight of their efforts. And if anything goes to show, then today is a great reminder that if you don't show up for a day of Test cricket, it doesn't matter whether you're the number 1 ranked team or the number 12 ranked team in the world, you'll get found out. And Pat Cummins and his men got found out today, and it looks like it's going to be a big challenge for the Australians to get back in this game. It's well and truly not over yet, and I would be silly to write off the big cartel to not take a bit of a lick tonight and have their egos hurt a little bit and come back and with a vengeance tomorrow. Like you saw signs there of all three. Obviously, not having played Test cricket in 8 months for Stark, and then longer for Cummins, who hadn't played after Adelaide, and then Josh Hazlewood obviously missed the whole Ashes series last year. So there's been a lot of time out of the whites and the Becky Green for the big three, and Nathan Lyon was also able to get some overs in. Looked pretty threatening without really troubling that top order too much. And I think Lyon is a massive watch for the morning. 4 left-handers in that top order, still the 2 at the crease, and then 2 to come in the top 7. And I think Lyon, if he gets it right with that tennis ball bounce, starts to become a little bit more sharper and that quicker spin. Look for Lyon to potentially get Australia back in the day. But yeah, massive shout out. Obviously, the biggest win of the day for an individual player is Hassan. Hassan was just absolutely fantastic, and it just showed that 130k an hour type fast medium bowling can work on wickets that are a little bit conducive in Australia. If they are to go through this next 12-month period against bowlers, you look through the lineups that they'll play. There's a lot of these type of bowlers in those 11s that they'll come up against, and it's going to be something that Australia has to really work out, and whether it's a little bit more patience and a little bit more respect for those guys that don't absolutely set the radar on fire. But yeah, Hassan to be able to finish with 6, massive props to him. Steve Smith, obviously the shining light for the Australians. He made 71 off 109. Looked really busy, played the ball really late. His access areas around the ground are really fantastic. So, yeah, all in all, really interesting day of Test cricket. I think the three key takeaways for me is that the Australians consistently are finding ways to get themselves out in the same ways, which is quite a concerning thing for Australian fans. That you look through that dismissals list of, pardon me, of Labuschagne getting squared up, Kerry getting it done through the gate, Green falling across, Cummins out to the leg side and fishing with his hands. There are a few of those consistent trends that are quite worrying for the Australians, and hopefully the second innings it can show its way a little bit better. But yeah, massive worry for the Australians, and obviously don't want to over exaggerate one day into potentially 100 odd days of Test cricket in the next 365 for the Australians. But yeah, if you take form with only what you can see, and unfortunately it looks a lot the same. But yeah, there are some shining lights in there. Travis Head did play some nice shots, and as well as Jake Weatherald, they played some really nice. I think they complemented each other really well and got through that first tricky little period. And then yeah, the bowlers probably just weren't consistent enough in terms of bowling broading line and length, and it begs to ask the question of whether Scott Boland would have been a perfect bowler on this wicket. You look at Hassan, and it's not too dissimilar to the type of bowler Boland is. So yeah, massive day of Test cricket tomorrow. It looks to be an absolute cracker. Australia well and truly behind in the game. Bangladesh lead. Only need 102 to wipe the Australian lead, and sitting 96 for 1 after the 24 overs, with Mumim on 35 and Tanzid Hassan on 32. Stay tuned for more action from the Test summer on Definitely Cricket, powered by Next 11. Really appreciate everyone's support of the podcast. This is the first one of these we've done, so really excited to bash these out for the rest of the summer, but looking forward to hearing your thoughts after day one. And yeah, looks to be a great Test match, and hopefully it's for the green and gold. It's a slightly better day tomorrow. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great night. Just to recap the scores: Australia all out 198, Steve Smith 71, Jake Weatherall 23, Travis Head 22, Hassan 6 for 55, Taskin 2 also took 2 for 55, and then Eberdot 2 for 39. In reply, the Bangladeshis are 1 for 96, which Mitch Stark being Australia's only wicket taker, with Mominol and Tanzid the not out batsman. Stay tuned for more action as we go through the Test summer. Looking forward to seeing everyone out there throughout the series and throughout the summer. But take care and have a great night, everyone.